I've done this lecture, so I wrote it especially for all of you guys tonight, because when I do my symptom surveys and go over issues with patients, very commonly people have various issues with sleeping, and so we're going to go over what each of those problems with sleep might stem from, or what the resolution, the individualized resolution might be. So I know you guys saw the first page was your sleep quiz, so if you got a chance to do that, great. If you haven't finished it, you'll have a chance to finish it towards the end. But already just going around the room, some of the feedback as you were taking the quiz was, like I heard, like, what does that have to do with sleep? And so tonight as we get talking about the different issues with sleep, you might be surprised to find out that sleep isn't just its own thing. It's so interconnected with several different body functions. And so we're going to use some tools and some surveys to kind of go through that. There's a lot of new faces in the room, so I am going to go ahead and give you my personal history and how I got into this field in the first place, or I could have Bruce give it because he's probably heard it 15 different times. But, so I was fortunate, like very early on, I knew that I wanted to be a doctor, but the only kind of doctor that I knew about from my, growing up and influences was traditional medicine. So I started down a path, to study medicine. I was in 7th grade when I knew I wanted to be a doctor, and so during high school, I got to go to the hospital for half of the year instead of go to normal classes. I saw surgeries being done and babies being born and all this stuff because if you get to know me, I'm a big nerd. I'm a forever student. I still go to classes to this day because I'm so passionate about health and wellness and just kind of in awe of the human body and what it's capable of and what it can tell us. But I started to become sick in my high school days. And so what happened is that I was missing a lot of school. I was kind of being shuffled around from doctor to doctor and specialist to specialist, kind of, like I say, poked and prodded, having all these tests. Everything was inconclusive. Meanwhile, my health was declining and my ability to focus on my studies, was starting to fail. And so when I finally called it quits, and decided to not only break up with the medical field for my own, being in charge of my own health, but also as the course of study that I decided to follow in an attempt to help others, what I discovered was fascinating and is a blessing in disguise. But I didn't know that then. At that time, it was devastating because I ended up having to stop my undergraduate studies. So here I am pre-med, and the very field that I'm studying to become a part of is failing me. I was literally every 2 years would have surgery. So my condition was a pelvic pain condition. And they tried pain medications, and those made me groggy and unable to study. And they tried birth control pills to regulate my cycle, and that had its own, effects on mood and weight gain. I didn't gain the freshman 15, I gained the freshman 20, and it wasn't because I was drinking beer, it was because of the medications that I was on. And then the intensity of what they were recommending became more and more severe. So I ended up having surgery around the clock, like almost on the clock, every 2 years to remove lesions. And then the best suggestion that they had for me following the surgeries was to follow it with a course of hormones. So I've been through menopause twice. And finally, starting to gain a little bit of awareness and knowledge and everything, I said, how long can I do this? I am in my 20s, I'm ambitious, I'm trying to follow a career path. Is that really your long-term plan for me? Surgery and hormones every 2 years. Well, while I went through my last course of hormone therapy, one of the 60 minutes, one of those news series, there was a special alert about the actual medication that they were injecting in me, and that there was potential long-term neurological side effects. And the warning was so real that my gynecologist at the time, who was prescribing the medication, gave me a personal phone call. That's pretty rare, right? Yeah. So we took it really seriously. However, the form of medication that they gave me was injected into me. And so it's not a pill where you can just stop taking it. It's already in its body and has to run its course, right? So I was stuck with it. But I did, decide decide not to pursue that course of treatment anymore. During my 1 year off of medical leave from college, I ended up discovering the chiropractic college. And so I learned through chiropractic, the true philosophy of chiropractic is that your body can heal itself. That you were designed, you have innate intelligence, and your body was designed with everything that it already needs to express 100% health. And so also that there's no one, I like to say no one size fits all, magic cure, take a pill that's going to fix everybody's issues, right? And so that really resonated with me, and I felt good about starting a practice, because my goal even with becoming a medical doctor was to have a wellness practice. But I knew I would be kind of like going against the grain. And another additional benefit of why I love being in the field of chiropractic is because people are coming to us for a different solution already. When you choose to see a chiropractor or a nutritionist, you're looking for alternatives. And so in my field, what we do is so well accepted. And so what I've become passionate about is hoping to teach other people that this is its own form of healthcare, and I might add true healthcare to that. And just getting out there and teaching people that there are other ways. Like I was teaching some of our younger patients today, it's so awesome to be exposed to a different mindset and not just think that medicine and drugs are the be-all, end-all. And I'm not here to medical bash, I'll just give you my disclaimer on that. There is the right time and place for medicine, and when you need heroic measures, we're blessed to live in a society where we have wide access to it, and we have some of the best, technology available to us. But I will go on a wire and say that it's far too often the first thing sought, and it doesn't necessarily need to be the first. We think it should be the last resort after you've tried all other things. So that's my story, and now I've been practicing for 14 years. I practiced in central New York in the Finger Lakes for 12 before moving to Jacksonville. And I always say, lo and behold, you guys all have the same problems that all the New Yorkers did. So there's a place for me here as well. And I think that it's obvious because the practice has grown so quickly. After 2 years in Jacksonville, we're already seeing and helping the same number of patients that we were in New York after 12 years. So I feel like I'm in the right place, and there's a huge need for this and a growing need, and so that's why we're here. So tonight our topic is insomnia or sleep issues. So if you'll turn, the next page in your folder should be sleep, and I'm going to introduce it using our triangle here. So on the triangle, what you have is the symptom insomnia up top. So any kind of difficulty sleeping will qualify as insomnia. What we know is that regardless of whatever symptom that you're having, that there's some kind of underlying nutritional deficiency, and that nutritional deficiency is affecting how happy or healthy your organs are. And the reason it's on a triangle is because you can read it forward or backward. Every leg of the triangle equally affects all the other legs. So if your organs aren't happy, that means they aren't getting the nutrients or the building blocks they need. The more nutritional deficiency, the worse your symptoms are going to be. Or the less well-fed your organs are, the more they're going to give you some kind of red alert or red flag or alert sign that something's not right. So that's what I want to introduce in the first place, is that in functional medicine or alternative medicine or a wellness model, I'm not interested in only treating the symptoms. What we want to do is get to what the underlying cause of it is and allow the symptoms to go away once and for all, not just a temporary fix. So can anybody tell me what the medical model for insomnia or sleep disturbances are?
Sleeping pills?
Mm-hmm. Sleeping pills, sedatives, that kind of thing, anti-anxiety meds, a lot of those things. And so it's become a big problem because 2/3 of Americans between the ages of 13 and 64 report that their sleep needs aren't being met. And that equals millions of Americans, and that equals millions of new prescriptions being written. Research confirms, and now we know this from multiple sources, so they used to say, some people would say 7 hours, some people said 8, some people said 9. So the average of all the compiling evidence is that the average person needs 8.5 hours of uninterrupted sleep to prevent the ill effects that we're going to talk about in this lecture tonight. You need that 8.5 hours to prevent cognitive impairment. So that's brain function in layman's terms. 40% of all adults say that they're so sleepy during the day that it interferes with their daily activities, including work performance or school performance. Sleep disruption is considered to be more common in women, and it's thought to be done, due to the hormone complexities. But the be-all, end-all in big letters is that good health demands good sleep. So if you're not sleeping, you're not getting the restorative rest that the body needs to heal and repair. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But the reason that the medical model is dangerous is because the medications have serious side effects to them, and they're all highly addictive. So it's really hard for patients to come off. And we also find, has anybody ever done that? If you're not sleeping, doesn't it make you more anxious about if you're going to sleep the next night? It's like a cumulative problem. Then you get to bed and you're just and you might even think of it during the day, oh, I really need to sleep tonight. I hope I sleep. Then you get yourself so worked up all day hoping that for a good night's sleep that by the time you lay down, your mind is all over the place, And that's why the sedatives are so addictive, is because when somebody finally thinks that they're working and they're getting a good night's sleep, the last thing they want is for their insomnia to come back. So you can see how they, would stay on these things and even be afraid to attempt to come off of them. But being addictive, if you are on a sleep prescription, in no means am I telling you to discontinue it. That needs to be worked out with the doctor who prescribed it and done in a very sensitive way by very slowly decreasing the amount of medication. And if anybody has specific individualized questions about that, either online or in the room, we can answer that one-to-one. So the medical model would be to ask the question why, find out what the underlying issue is, and then go about restoring function. So if you guys, I'm assuming everybody here is here either because they're not getting the optimal amount of sleep that they'd like, or the quality, or they're not sleeping. Is that true? Okay. Or you know somebody that's not sleeping, maybe. Or maybe somebody in the room is the cause of you not sleeping. That happens a lot when we get couples in the room. I love treating couples because it takes the whole couple to get the full story sometimes. And they fill in the gaps for each other, which is super fun. So if we're all in this room and we're here for insomnia, my insomnia could be because of hormone imbalance, probably likely with my health history, right? Yours could be because of stress. Yours could be due to circulatory problems. Yours could be because of a blood sugar imbalance. Yours could be due to thyroid or adrenal fatigue. Yours could be a liver toxicity. Somebody's could be side effects from medications. It could be emotional health. I give you emotional health. Do you like that?
Whether you want it or not.
Yeah. And or mineral deficiencies in certain nutrients, or pain and discomfort. So can you kind of all see as we go around the room, and I gave you all your little labels, our underlying causes, how the treatment for each of our symptoms, which is the same, insomnia, would be completely different.
Big time.
Right. So that's the functional model. So we're going to go through a couple of sleep disorders and just talk about what some of the most common effects are. So people say that when people tell me that they have a problem with sleep, the next question that I always ask is, does that mean that you have trouble falling asleep? Does that mean you can't stay asleep? Or does that mean that you just don't feel refreshed, or that you have nightmares or disruptions, excuse me. So if you can't fall asleep, the most common reasons would be an anxiousness, or that your mind is just going 100 miles an hour and you can't calm down, you can't get rested or in a restful state. Some people who can't fall asleep might just be because of pain or discomfort, you can't find a comfortable position, either your body position or on the pillow, and you kind of toss and turn and trying to find a good position. And then the other two would be caffeine or alcohol. Is anybody surprised that alcohol is a stimulant?
I've heard of it years ago.
Most people take it because they think it relaxes them and it calms the body, but the exact opposite is most commonly true. And the reason for that is because alcohol has a high glycemic index, so it raises your blood sugar, and you're going to see blood sugar in a lot of these descriptions. So if it's raising your blood sugar, you might feel like it's calming you and get to sleep, but then it could interfere with sleep later. So that's actually also under can't stay asleep. So if you can't stay asleep, I don't know if I threw the statistic in here, but the majority of sleep disruption cases were associated with mood disorders. So if you looked at anybody, a cross-section of people who have mood disorders or are being treated for mood disorders, they also have sleep disturbance.
Oh, wow.
Sugar is on here, pain, and alcohol. And then restless leg syndrome, again, is more common in women, but I have several male patients who have it. Caffeine, stress, and then leg cramps. And leg cramps, we'll talk about some of the nutritional components to that. So, anatomy of sleep. There are 4 stages of sleep. A lot of people have heard this. Stages 1 through 4. 1 through 3 are the non-REM or REM, which stands for rapid eye movement. So the lower the number, the lighter the stage of sleep. So like stage 1 is when you're just starting to get sleepy and falling asleep, but you could very easily be woken back up at that stage. And then stages 2 through 3 start to get a little bit deeper, and then stage 4, REM sleep, is actually the deepest, most restorative sleep. And this is oftentimes where people have disorders where they're not ever getting into that full rapid eye movement, deep, restorative, healing sleep that they need, and therefore feeling unrested when they wake up. The REM sleep actually happens more toward like 2/3 of the night through. So you have to stay asleep long enough to get to that 2/3 of the evening. And then another stat that I heard that was interesting is that some of the most important sleep setting you up for REM sleep happens before 1 a.m. So for all the late nighters that are going to bed at midnight or later, you're not getting enough hours to set yourself up for REM sleep. So some of the disorders could just flat out be not enough hours of sleep or not going to bed early enough. But we don't have time to sleep, right? That's too much to do. So let's go over why is sleep so important? Why are we talking about this in the first place? So if you flip over your sheet, do you guys all know that we actually detoxify during our sleep? The body actually detoxifies. So that's super important because a lot of problems that we see in the office, we're putting people on detoxification programs. But we just tell people your body has its own detox mechanisms. Sometimes they become inefficient, and the sleep can actually be an impairment for the detox.
So what is a detox?
Well, your body has lots of natural processes for detox, but when you finally rest and your body's not in the wakeful state, that's when all the detox, the liver goes into function, your bowels are, preparing. Does anybody, your body should detoxify all night long, and then when you wake up, large intestine in the Oriental medicine 24-hour clock cycle becomes active in the morning. So the liver is active at night to detoxify you, and then large intestine becomes active in the morning. So very often the first thing you do in the morning or early on in the morning would have a good effective bowel movement. That's if everything is on point.
Yay, I'm on point.
Good. We got one person on point in the room. Good. She's on program. Sleep recharges the body and actually repairs the damage that's done during the day. So if it's self-inflicted damage or it's dietary damage or it's environmental exposures or whatever it might be, we do damage cells all day long, and so the body will heal that during the day. This was interesting. Some of the emotional factors and the mind and mood factors for sleep sleep helps us process anything that was learned, felt, or experienced during the day. So I just kind of imagine like that's our body's ability to just kind of like unload and recharge and before the next day brings all of its nuances and stressors. So if you're not sleeping, those stressors day after day just become cumulative, right? They just build and pile on top of each other. And that's when people start to come to see us because they might not just have insomnia written at the top of their triangle. I should have brought out, I have a fan of all the different cards that I can stick up there. They might have all of them. And then I have to kind of weed through and figure out what's the priority, right?
Yep.
For kids, adults, we don't really grow anymore, but for kids, sleep is so important because it helps promote growth. So think of the babies that aren't sleeping, babies that are colicky and accumulated loss of sleep so early on in their formative developmental years and the cumulative effects of that. Sleep enhances our memory, so this is, I'm always like, I need more energy and I need better mental clarity. Those are my top things. You can tell me anything and I'll research it and study it on myself if you tell me that it'll do those two things. But that's all you need to do is sleep in order to enhance your memory. And there's so many products out there. I'm saying that because it's funny, like there's different diets and dietary supplements and health gurus that are all trying to teach you about, brain boosting power and stamina and all. And some of them are very credible. I'm not disclaiming that. But let's start with, I'm always like, let's start with the basics and the foundations before we start investing tons of money and start getting all these fancy new age stuff in there. Go back to the foundations, and so sleep is the foundation, right?
Yes.
Sharpens the mind, which kind of goes with what we're saying. It actually stabilizes our emotions. I think that's kind of interesting.
Wow.
So maybe y'all need a nap in the middle of the day. That's how we should be doing it. And then it also slows the aging process. So again, there's all this anti-aging medicine out there that people are spending a ton of money on. So we could just try, put into place a couple of simple techniques to try to improve our sleep first. So, after I always break the bad news to everybody about how it's so prevalent in the stats and why it's so detrimental to our health and wellness, I always like to end our lectures on a positive note and give you empowerment and knowledge so that you can help yourself overcome some of these things. So, the real solution on the bottom. So, eating regular balanced meals and snacks throughout the day helps maintain blood sugar levels. So, has everybody heard that you should graze more so than just have 3 large meals? Does anybody do that? I kind of do. I have food out all the time. I'm like, a lot of times I'll walk into the treatment room chewing.
You're busted.
I'm just trying to get a good night's sleep, so forgive me for my rudeness and my bad table manners. All day long I'm just working on my sleep for the night ahead. But yes, if you keep your blood sugar, you want your blood sugar to stay balanced. You don't want it to spike and wane and spike and wane. And that's actually when your blood sugar is dropping is when you're needing, carb cravings or sugar cravings or looking for caffeine or stimulants to give you that next artificial high. So eating in a particular balanced way with more protein and healthy fats will maintain a healthy level balanced blood sugar during the day. We just gave you a little sneak peek, eating a healthy fat with a healthy protein snack at least 1 hour before bedtime. So there is a theory, and this